Let us think of education as the means of developing our greatest abilities, because in each of us there is a private hope and dream which, if fulfilled, can be translated into benefit for everyone and greater strength for our nation. By John F. Kennedy. Do you have the opportunity to do what you love most every day? Probably not. But think of how much happier people would be if they did have that opportunity. According to Gallup, an organization focused on identifying and building strengths, people who do have that opportunity to focus on their strengths every day are 6 times as likely to be engaged in their jobs and more than 3 times as likely to report having an excellent quality of life in general. I'm convinced that the way to happiness and success is based on a person seeking out their strengths. I'll first tell you about something called the strength theory, and then about the importance of identifying your strengths. And finally, I'll tell you about the importance of developing your strengths instead of focusing on your weaknesses. First of all, I'd like to talk about something called the strength theory and the importance of this philosophy. This theory was developed by the psychologist Dr. Donald Clifton, and the main idea of this theory is that people get further by spending their energy on developing their strengths rather than focusing all of their energy on perfecting their weaknesses. And according to Marcus Buckingham, research data show that most people don't even come close to using their full assets at work. So now that we've covered the basis of the path to success, let's move on to how to identify your strengths. By identifying your strengths rather than focusing on your weaknesses, you can begin to prepare yourself for a happy and successful career and life. According to Dr. Clifton, strengths are the results of maximized talents. Specifically, a strength is mastery created when a person's most powerful talents are refined with practice and combined with acquired relevant skills and knowledge. I took the survey in his book StrengthsFinder and discovered that some of my strengths are positivity and connectedness. So now that we've covered the importance of discovering your strengths and how, let's talk about how that translates into life and careers. My third point is about how to develop your strengths and use them to go far in your career. Once you take the StrengthsFinder survey, or one like it, you'll be presented with several words that describe your particular and unique combination of talents. Once you know what you're good at, you can then look into the jobs that nurture and progress that skill. My results gave me a description of the traits that make up my strengths, and even gave me examples of jobs that I would find fulfilling. In conclusion, I'd like to stress the importance of identifying and building your strengths in order to live a better and happier life. By understanding that you have your own unique talents and strengths, you can then begin the adventure of discovering what they are and then put them to good use in your career. I'd like to leave you with this inspiring quote by Benjamin Franklin. "Hide not your talents, they for use were made. What is a sundial in the shade?"